In Venezuela, government complied with the popular mandate after the consultative referendum in defense of Essequibo held last Sunday. In Peru, Constitutional Court has ordered the immediate release of dictator Alberto Fujimori. In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces on Tuesday continued the intensive shelling of the southern central and northern besieged Gaza Strip, committing more massacres against the people of the Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuelan state complied with the popular mandate after the consultative referendum for the defense of Essequibo held last Sunday. President Nicolás Maduro, in a meeting at the General Assembly of the Federal Council of Government, announced the 7 decisions of the government after the electoral exercise on December 3rd. Among the decisions are the creation of the Integral Defense Zone of Guyana Essequibo with headquarters in Tumeremo, and the publication and diffusion in schools, high schools, and university of the country of the new map of Venezuela, which includes Guyana and Essequibo. At the same time, he announced the activation of the debates in National Assembly for the approval of the organic law for the defense of the Guyana and Essequibo. In Venezuela, the leadership of the Venezuela Terra campaign command highlighted the unity of the people and reiterated the binding nature of the referendum in defense of the Essequibo territory. During the event, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, highlighted the importance of the popular consultation of December 3rd in Venezuela, which counted with a high participation. Rodriguez stated that in this referendum, the people of Venezuela issued a constitutional mandate to the unity of the whole country. The President of the legislature recalled that in 1998, with the arrival of Comandante Chavez, the system of consultations to the people of Venezuela changed, with the integration of recalled and consultative referendum. In this regard, Rodriguez assured that on Sunday, December 3rd, the greatest victory ever known in the Venezuelan electoral history took place in the country. A constitutional court in Peru has ordered on Tuesday the immediate release of dictator Alberto Fujimori. The court's ruling reinstates a pardon granted to the ex-president for humanitarian reasons, which was revoked by the Supreme Court in 2019. The decision takes place but human rights organizations request that he not be released. Relatives of the veterans of the Peruvian dictator announced that the court's decision is unacceptable as it puts the rights below Fujimori's undue freedom. On the other hand, Peru's Association for Human Rights, APRODE, rejected Fujimori's release, emphasizing that the Constitutional Court's order contradicts international provisions and represents an act of disobedience to regional justice. Alberto Fujimori was sentenced to 25 years in prison for human rights abuses and corruption during his decade-long rule through the 1990s. The National Police of Peru raised the congressional officers in the midst of the investigation into the criminal network allegedly led by prosecutor Patricia Benavides. In the middle of the declaration, prosecutor Patricia Benavides at the Congress headquarters, member of the special team of prosecutors against corruption in the National Police, intervened in the Congress headquarters in the framework on the investigations against Jaime Villanueva, the former advisor of the prosecutor of the nation, Patricia Benavides, for the case the prosecutor had empowered Dome. This proceeding was carried out 30 minutes before the beginning of the presentation of Benavides Vargas in the Oversight Commission. Also, the agent in charge of the intervention collected images from the security cameras of the chamber. In Indonesia, rescue officials said 11 climbers were found dead on Monday after the eruption of Mount Merapi on the island of Sumatra, which is believed to have killed 11 climbers. Local rescue teams indicated that the number of people killed by the eruption increased to 13, while 10 are still missing and 52 have been evacuated from the sites. Meanwhile, authorities reported that continuing volcanic activity and bad weather conditions have thwarted the rescue missions, while volcanic ash has reached the foot of the hill. The world could exceed 1.5 Celsius degree warming threshold in just 7 years if CO2 emissions continue to rise A group of scientists warned Tuesday urging countries participating in the COP28 to act now. The Global Carbon Project study presented at the United Nations Climate Conference COP28 in Dubai warns that CO2 emission from coal, gas, or oil will reach a new record in 2023. Pollution from fossil fuels increased by 1.1% last year, according to research by this international consortium of scientists. The study emphasizes that China and India have become respectively the world's first and third larger emitters of greenhouse gases. The United Nations Conference of the Parties on Climate Change dedicated an inclusive day to indigenous movements. Our team for Dubai, Arab Emirates, tell us more in the following story.
At a COP28 summit where social and indigenous movements are in the minority, indigenous women made their voices and their native instruments heard in the streets of Essequibo, where the UN Climate Change Conference is being held.
We are here to show the whole world that there is no negotiations without the word of the indigenous peoples. There is no hammer to be banged in negotiations without our voice. That is why we are here.
For the first time ever, Brazil arrives at a COP summit with a Ministry of Indigenous Peoples, in addition to being the nation with the largest delegation in its history.
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples is a conquest of the Brazilian indigenous movement, and we are here not only as a representation of the indigenous movement, but also as a representation of the federal government and the parliament, and we can also have a direct impact on the negotiators.
Indigenous peoples comprise only 5% of the world's population, but are responsible for the protection of 82% of the planet's biodiversity.
Governments give very little importance to what we constantly bring as a message, so that the dialogue that we had both in the preparation of the indigenous debates and here in the indigenous pavilion, discussing our guidelines and demand is precisely unifying the force of the indigenous people of the world in the debate against climate change.
Brazilian Congresswoman Celia Sacrieva convened a meeting of indigenous parliamentarians from around the world during the conference of the parties. The Agribusiness Congressional Front is trying to overturn Lula's vetoes against the time frame project.
We consider the time frame thesis to be an anti-civilization project for the country and for humanity. There is a lot of talk about legal security and that this project is a legal thesis, but in reality, it is a political and economic thesis, and you should know that in the indigenous territories, there are more than 517,000 river sources, and if our territories are threatened, carbon stocks are naturally threatened.
Today, indigenous movements are recording for themselves what is happening in the biggest climate event of the planet, where discussions are dominated by government leaders, NGOs, and businessmen.
In this way, communicators and filmmakers came here not only to bring stories, but also to bring stories back to understand what is being done here, what the interests are, even to network. I think that with what's happening in Palestine, we see as one of the most practical things why it is important to tell a story from the inside.
Indigenous communities act as guardians of the forest, the greatest instrument we humans have to balance the climate. In turn, they are on the front line of the extreme weather events. Their voice is that of the future of the planet.
Let's take a short break. If you remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English for the find news in different formats, new days, some more. Other studies coming up, stay with us. Israel occupation forces on Tuesday continued the intensive shelling of the southern, central, and northern besieged Gaza Strip, committing more massacres against the people of the Strip. The death toll in Gaza has so far reached 16,250 since the start of Israeli aggression on October 7th, including 1,250 who were killed after the end of the humanitarian truce on December 1st. Al-Gaza Madrid hospitals in the central Gaza Strip said it received 45 bodies and dozens of people injured as a result of an aerial attack by Israeli jets tragedy the house of Abu Mesbet family in the city, where displaced people were also seeking refuge. Israeli warplanes also bombarded the vicinity of Harvard School in the Al-Yafuha area, west of Jabaliyah in the Gaza Strip, which shelters displaced persons, causing several injuries. UN spokesperson Stephane Dujarric said Tuesday the agency continues to struggle to get supplies inside Gaza. Dujarric told reporters in New York that 108 trucks carrying humanitarian supplies and 69,000 liters went into Gaza from Egypt Monday, but this is far less than the amount of aid that was entering the territory during the November humanitarian ceasefire.
By the end of last night, 108 trucks carrying humanitarian supplies and about 69,000 liters of fuel entered from Egypt into Gaza, about the same as the previous day. This is well below the daily average of 170 trucks and 110,000 liters of fuel that had entered during the humanitarian pause that took place between the 24th and 30th of November. Meanwhile, Rafah was the only governorate in Gaza where limited aid distribution was able to take place, and that is primarily flour and water. In the adjacent Khan Yunis governorate, aid distribution largely stopped due to the intensified hostilities, or the intensity of the hostilities. In addition, last night, the main telecommunication provider in Gaza announced that all telecom services had shut down due to cuts in the main fiber routes. This followed a partial shutdown in Gaza City in northern Gaza a few hours earlier due to the ongoing hostilities.
In Lebanon, a Hamas representative denied that the group's fighters raped women during the October 7th attack. Hamas senior representative Osama Hamdan said during a press conference in Beirut on Tuesday that such reports aim to recover the good treatment that hostages received while being held by the group. However, when asked if Hamas was holding 17 female soldiers, the representative said that time had not come yet to speak about the matter, and reiterated that the negotiations were supposed to be confined to civilians. Previously, he had declared that one of the reasons the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations broke down was Israel had to put forward a list of female soldiers held in Gaza in an attempt to get them released in exchange for the release of Palestinian women and children from Israeli prison. Finally, he reaffirmed Hamas' stance that there will be no negotiation for further exchange before a permanent ceasefire is reached to end the war.
The Zionist claims and lies that some women were raped come to cover the images of good treatment that the Zionist settlers and foreigners received in Gaza that categorically deny these claims, as these images bother the Zionist entity that desperately tried to satanize our steadfast people and solid resistance. Regarding the exchange, I was clear and said the stance of the movement, as there will be no talk about an exchange before ending the aggression on Gaza. The mediators exerted efforts, but the side that blocked these efforts is the occupation. And today, Netanyahu fired the mercy bullet on these efforts when he met the families of the prisoners and told them that their loved ones will not return soon.
The third edition of the Wounded of the Homeland Games continue in Damascus and will end on Wednesday, December 6th. An event that features 173 war wounded athletes from Russia, Iran, Indonesia, Iraq, and Syria. Our correspondent in Damascus, Hisham Wanous, with the story.
With resolve, willpower, and determination, the wounded athletes from the Syrian armies and the other participating countries competed in the disciplines of swimming, track and field, weightlifting, table tennis, basketball, and badminton. During the Games, the Syrian athletes demonstrated great ability to compete and obtain good results in this match, which they consider an important step on the way to represent their country in international competitions.
Without a doubt, our goal is to form a high-level national team that can compete internationally, and for this reason we are looking to conduct training sessions with teams of other countries and keep in touch with foreign athletes in order to represent our country in competitions in Arab and other countries. Think the Syrian swimmers are very fast and very strong, and if they follow through with the right training, I think they will be stronger than the Russian swimmers, and I really wish they would. The competition has been very strong with all the participating teams from other countries, and we, wounded for our homeland, have demonstrated our capacity to make a difference, because just as we have fought on the battlefield and we have won, now we are winning in sports and we are improving in this field.
The event, organized by the Syrian Association Wounded of the Homeland, together with the General Sports Federation of Syria, at the Tishreen and Al-Faya sports complexes in the Syrian capital, is a space where the wounded of the Syrian Arab Army demonstrate that although they can no longer serve in the military, they refuse to be defeated by their wounds and bet on continuing their lives in other fields, including sports, in a clear demonstration of their attachment to life and their determination to move forward after long years of war and blockade imposed by foreign powers.
The wound I suffered in the battlefield has changed my life, and I am now in the sports field. And in both fields, like all my wounded colleagues, we act with heroism and with a lot of will and determination to overcome our physical disabilities and recover the normal course of our lives with the support of the relevant institutions of the country. I have lost my legs while I was a soldier in the army, but I have not lost my life, and I currently practice wheelchair basketball, and this allowed me to share with people like me who overcome their injuries and go on with their lives, especially the injured Syrian athletes whom I wish much success, as well as to all the participating teams.
With the will of steel, the participants in these games faced their physical disabilities and returned to fight in defense of their homeland, but this time in the sports field. The Syrian athletes, like thousands of wounded soldiers of the Syrian Arab Army, although they receive all the support by the country's military institution in appreciation of their performance on the battlefield, refuse to remain inactive, and so they take part in the enormous work being carried out by the government and citizens in all fields for the recovery of Syria.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has ordered an investigation into a military drone strike that killed 85 civilians gathered for a religious celebration over the weekend. Government spokesperson Yuri Gelale said in an official statement on Tuesday that the president qualified the incident as worrying and painful. On the other hand, Nigerian Army Chief Lieutenant General Tawared Lagbaha personally visited Tondumure village to express apology for the airstrike, while at Kaduna Hospital attending the injured, he assured veterans that their medical bills would be taken care of. The attack was the latest in a series of errant strikes as the country fights and groups in northern Nigeria. Kaduna, located 163 kilometers from the capital Abuja, is one of several northwestern and north-central states grappling with kidnappings and killings by armed groups. Security forces have been employing area strikes in their efforts to counter these threats. Negotiations between Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces in Saudi Arabia's port city of Jeddah have been identified suspended by Saudi, U.S., and African mediators. According to Sudan's media, the suspension comes after the two sides failed to meet the commitments to implement confidence-building measures and withdraw military forces from key cities. On November 7th, the two parties reached an agreement outlining measures to facilitate humanitarian aid access to civilians. They also agreed to establish a joint mechanism led by the United Nations and additionally committed to implementing confidence building measures, including the arrest of leaders of the former regime who had escaped from prison. Sudan has been witnessing daily clashes between the SAF and the RSF forces in Khartoum and other areas since April 15. Up to 9,000 people have been reportedly killed by October, and more than 6 million have been displaced. UK Home Secretary James Cleverly said Tuesday that he feels very strongly that a new asylum treaty with Rwanda addresses legal concerns raised by the UK Supreme Court. Last month, the UK Supreme Court ruled that the plan to send asylum seekers to the West African country was illegal because it said Rwanda is not a safe country for refugees. The Rwanda plan is central to the Conservative government's self-imposed goal of stopping unauthorized asylum seekers arriving in small boats across the English Channel. Britain and Rwanda struck a deal in April 2022 for some migrants who cross the Channel to be sent to Rwanda, where the asylum claims will be processed, and if successful, they will stay. On Tuesday, the court has suspended the privatization of 11 state-owned companies in Kenya, including the National Oil and Gas Company, following an appeal by the main opposition party. According to the main opposition leader, Raila Odinga, the sale of the state's holdings should be subject to referendum because of the strategic importance of the company's concerns in this country, the economic powerhouse of East Africa. In his decision handed down late on Monday, High Court Judge Chacha Wita said that he was satisfied that the opposition application raises constitutional and legal issues of public importance that require critical examination. The sale process has therefore been suspended until February 6, when the case will be examined on its merits. The Imhotep Museum in Egypt reopened its doors to the public after more than a year closed for repairs. Located in the ancient necropolis of Saqqara, south of Cairo, the museum was named in honor of the ancient Egyptian architect Imhotep, best known for building the step pyramid for Pharaoh Djoser during the Third Dynasty. The museum was inaugurated in 2006 and contains numerous archaeological pieces found in the various excavations carried out on the site. The Imhotep Museum is considered one of the most important archaeological museums in Egypt. And we have come to the end of this brief, but before saying goodbye, I want to thank a Caribbean audience, especially the audience from Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share newscasts and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.